Line with Joe and Joe. Once again, let us go into the breach. Justin Trudeau has a heart-to-heart with the Canadian people. He's always been respectful. Play the clip.
I've been very, very careful all my life to be thoughtful and to be respectful of people's space and people's headspace as well.
Just one comment. What is headspace? Respectful of other people's headspace? What is that? I'll be honest with you. Never heard of that term. That's a new one, Justin. I got to be truthful with you. Respectful of other people's headspace. What is that? You just don't go near people's faces? I don't know. I don't know. You figure that one out. Let me know. Put it in the comments. I want you to see an image that's floating around social media. I stand with Anthony Bass. I did a clip recently. Obviously, the Blue Jays strong-armed him. He spoke out against a number of issues, talking about financial boycotts, and they made him apologize. So you stand with Anthony Bass. Guys, how about you stand for freedom? I know we want to stand with Anthony Bass. He got railroaded. Bad deal. But let's just stand up, get our heads out of the sand, start voting right, start prioritizing things. You've been bulldozed for 8 years, for crying out loud. Now you're going to stand with Anthony Bass against the Blue Jays? For crying out loud, you should have stood up 7 years ago when you're getting bludgeoned to death. You're on the brink of death, Canada. Stand up for Anthony Bass. Okay, we like Anthony. Stand up. Boycott the Blue Jays. Great. How about you help yourself, for crying out loud? As you all know, I am an American, and I'm pretty harsh on Justin Trudeau. So I'm going to be fair. I want to show you something that I just came across. I had to share it because it's insane. Joe Biden is at the Air Force Academy graduation. Look at this clip. I'll be honest with you. I am speechless. I am speechless. It is insane that this man is the president of the United States. And you know something? He's going to run again, and millions of people are going to vote for him. I had to share that because I am harsh on your president. Fair is fair. We got ourselves a bomb in Washington, D.C., in Joe Biden. It's unbelievable. The clips just keep on coming. I could talk for days. Maxime Bernier recently had a meet and greet. Josh Alexander was there. I want you to look at this picture. Look at the person who's protesting. And look at Josh. Now, pretend like you don't know what the meet and greet was all about. You see a young man. He's dressed nice. And you see a person clad in leather, giving the middle finger, looking disturbed. Who do you think represents Canada better? Who? Be objective. If you ask me, the person who is protesting is deranged, simply deranged. And average people, forget about your political ideology, should be concerned about that. If you find yourself siding with the person clad in leather, giving their middle finger, you should step back and reassess things. You really should. Some sound advice. The changes Canada needs are not going to come from the top down. They're going to come from the bottom up. Play the clip.
We've been advocating for here today is that we adopt principles. If conservatives love liberty, if they want to see the state rolled back, they have to stand on principle and actually shift culture the other way. And that can't be done from the top down, unfortunately. It has to be done from the bottom up, from the grassroots up. So conservatives out there, stop relying on political power to make the changes you want, because it's only going to rely in a further move leftwards, but instead talk to your family and friends about the principles that Western civilization was built on, the sacrosanct nature of the individual and how society ought to be protected and government ought to protect it, rather than and talk about what the proper role of government should be, rather than simply arguing for whatever the liberal policies were 10, 15 years ago.
Couple comments. Canada needs an exorcism. I've said this. You are not going to elect your way through this problem. The reason why you have Justin Trudeau is people voted for him. Believe it or not, there are some people to this day that still support them. The changes have to come from the bottom up. You have to change the culture. How do you do that? Family and religion. Benjamin Franklin and the founding fathers, particularly John Adams, said this in the United States, and please pay attention. He said this: a democracy does not work unless you have a moral people. How do you have a moral people? Solid families, people who are not wounded because of divorce, because of all types of irregular relationships, and religion, which instills in people a higher purpose. Love God above yourself, love your neighbor as yourself. Instilling the golden rule. That is how you build the society from the bottom up. And then the politicians will be a better cut above as far as what you have right now. That guy gets it. He's giving you the answer. I'm just telling you, you're not going to vote yourself out of this. The vast majority of Canadians agree with this woman. Is this polite totalitarianism? Play the clip.
So a trans woman can be part of the 2010 Equality Act for single-sex spaces, or they cannot, Professor? Which is it?
I would prefer not. I would prefer them to be separately protected under a different characteristic. And in fact, gender reassignment is a different characteristic, although there's some argument about whether that means that they have legally changed sex for, whether it's biological sex or legal sex. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't get too involved in those disputes. But the outcome should be that genuinely single-sex spaces where women get undressed or sleep or are otherwise vulnerable to sexual predators should be female only.
Couple comments. Vulnerable females in prison are subject to male rapists. Does that sound like it's pro-woman to you? Oh, but by the way, trans women are women too. That's what your prime minister said. How could you equate that to protecting women in jail? How? Or they don't matter because they're in jail. But trans women, they're women too. A woman in Canada has been diagnosed with climate change. Yeah, you heard that right. Play the clip.
We now turn to one of the day's most interesting headlines. A woman in Canada has been diagnosed with climate change. You heard that right. Diagnosed with climate change. She had a problem. She went to an emergency room. A doctor attended to her and then wrote climate change on the diagnosis slip. What were her symptoms? It's something that a lot of us will be able to relate to. So are you and I also suffering from climate change?
What you just said.
Couple comments. It's my standard comment when I hear something like this. Cuckoo! That's number one. Climate alarmists. They run the show. They run everything. They're trying to run your life. And frankly, they're doing a good job of it. Canada, this is what happens when you print money. Excuse the language, but I want to make a point. Play the clip.
What happens when you don't print more money, right? You see this bill, right? 200,000 bolívares. That means 200,000 bolívares. Look at all these bills, bro. Look at all these bills. All of this, bro. See this one. 50,000 bolívares. That's 50,000 bolívares, bro. Look at all this shit. 20,000 bolívares, bro. Look at all these bills. Look at all that shit, bro. All of these bills combined, bro. You want to know how much, you want to know the worth of this shit in dollars? This is roughly 50 cents. I'm not fucking with you. This whole shit, roughly worth 50 cents. I'm not even fucking with you, bro.
Venezuelan dollars are worth nothing. Your dollars are worth nothing because Trudeau doesn't get it. But he kind of does because he has an ideology and you're just in the way. So he kind of does. Robert Kennedy Jr., he says freedom of currency is just as important as freedom of speech. Interesting parallel. Play the clip.
Hey, everybody. I'm right here at, you can see, Washington, D.C. I just did the Fox News appearance. Somebody, Connell asked me, and Apple ATL 747 asked me about digital currency. One of the reasons that I think that I had the revelation about how dangerous digitalized currency and central bank digitalized currency, CBDCs, are came with during the truckers' protest in Canada. It was a peaceful protest. People who were protesting, asking for the rights that we take for granted in this country: freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of expression, and petition. And they were, the government agencies went out, took pictures of their license plates, and used other news stories, etc., to get the names of these truckers. Peaceful protest. And then shut down their bank accounts, shut down their credit cards so they wouldn't work. They couldn't pay their alimony. They couldn't feed their children. They couldn't pay their mortgages. And for many of them, it took them many, many weeks to reconnect to their money supply. And when I watched that happen, I recognized that freedom of currency is as important as freedom of speech, because if the government can starve you to death, none of these truckers were charged with a crime. They certainly weren't convicted. They were simply dissenting from government policies that they had a right to dissent from. And the government didn't like that, and so it was ready to literally starve them to death. If the government can do that to you, we are living in feudal serfdom.
Couple comments. If a government can starve you, we are truly living in feudal times. Comparing the people to serfdom. That should terrify you. He nails it right there. The truckers were exercising their rights peacefully. They just dissented from what the government was putting forth. They believed their human rights were being violated, and the government teamed up with banks through ESG policies, environmental social governance, and froze their money. If a government can do that, they can control you and make you do anything. The world should take note. It's a black eye on Canadian history. Robert Kennedy Jr. is ringing the bell. The world should pay attention because it could happen again. And it was successful. So if I was going to make a bet, it will happen again.
Hey guys, stay up to date with all of our content at Locals. We post videos and updates not found on this platform. Thank you for your support.